In the early 80s, an idea came to me that would not only change the course of my life, but that of many others too. As an occupational therapist and a lover of horses and horse riding, I'd heard many reports of the simultaneous improvement of posture and relief of back pain when horse riders sat in the saddle. In fact, I had observed many of my own patients with postural difficulties could sit in a saddle on horseback unaided and quite independently. Investigation revealed that Dr. A.C. Mandel from Denmark had concluded that in the seated position on horseback, the spine assumes perfect postural alignment, relieving muscular and discal pressure, making functional tasks much easier. It was a discovery that I'd been literally sitting on all my life, one which set me on a quest to explore the potential of the saddle as a new seating alternative. After 15 years of research, design and development, I'm now satisfied that the saddle seat provides a much healthier alternative to conventional seating. In the meantime, Debbie Michael, an occupational therapist from tropical far north Queensland, was on a similar quest. She had identified the need to improve the posture of many of her young patients. Debbie was looking for a versatile seating solution that would satisfy a variety of postural difficulties for a wide range of applications. We decided to trial the saddle seat and were pleasantly surprised to find that it not only satisfied her immediate demands, but also provided many other benefits, physical and psychological. As you will see, the results speak for themselves.
Eamon was my first child that I trialled the Bambach saddle seat. He was the one that started everything and started me searching for a more appropriate seat. Eamon is a child with spastic quadriplegia, cerebral palsy. He has a moderate disability, but he's intellectually very astute and very bright. The seating system that he was sitting in before was a timber chair, and he was sliding forward, he was rotating on his pelvis, he was sitting in a very unbalanced posture, so he was losing a lot of his postural control and wasn't able to then use his upper limbs in an appropriate way for his writing and his desktop work. We really needed to control that. We were able to do that with the Bambach saddle seat. It gave us the stability that we needed in the pelvis, prevented rotation or forward sliding, optimised his postural curves and improved the balance in his posture. We then found that he performed much better in the classroom. His mother was overwhelmed with the result and certainly had no hesitation in purchasing a chair for Eamon immediately, as she wasn't going to waste any time in improving her son's function in the classroom and at home. We had such a wonderful result with Eamon that it made me feel very positive about the ability of the Bambach saddle seat to satisfy the needs of a lot of children with varying disabilities. Chris was a very different child with different needs. The other children that I had been looking at had postural instability and postural fatigue and were not able to maintain their posture over a long, prolonged period of time. Chris's problem was that he has a condition that causes malformation of his hips and resulting in hip pain when he's sitting at 90 degrees for prolonged periods of time. So we were looking to relieve his pain and make him more comfortable as a primary aim. By positioning his hips at external rotation and abduction and 45 degrees of flexion, we were placing his hips in a position of better balance and less stress, and Chris was a much happier child as he was experiencing considerable less pain as a result. One very interesting thing I found with Chris when I went to see him in class is that because of his shortened limbs, I found him either sitting with his feet dangling, which isn't very good for productive functional work, or I found him sitting, he told me most of the time he sits on his knees for two reasons: to get him up a little bit higher so he can see over the desk, and also to help relieve his hip pain. We found by sitting him in the Bambach saddle seat, we were able to seat him at the appropriate height with his feet flat on the floor. This is very important for producing functional work, and we're also able to control his hip pain, two very important outcomes for Chris. Chris was a extremely happy child. When we tried the chair with him, he's what I call a very verbose and outgoing young man. He just turned around and told me that I wasn't having the chair back. He didn't want to give it back to me. So yes, he really liked it. Danielle had low muscle tone and postural fatigue like some of the other children, thereby making it difficult for her to maintain her posture. But she also had the added problem that she had a left-sided weakness due to a hemiplegia. This caused her to slump to the left side, causing an asymmetry, and therefore placing her at significant risk of developing a scoliosis as she grows. This is something that we really need to address and prevent. So I was looking at controlling the pelvis as the pivotal point of control to give her balance and symmetry with her posture, which is what we were able to achieve. When children are growing, and particularly when they hit a growth spurt, they're at significant risk of developing a spinal deformity if their posture is not controlled in an appropriate way. This is something that we need to certainly look at carefully and prevent, because children who are not managed appropriately, if they develop a significant scoliosis, they may be looking at surgical intervention in the future, which is a very invasive procedure and is certainly not always successful. So we want to prevent that occurring. I consider the Bambach saddle seat to be an investment for your child's health and your child's future. We just aren't looking at buying a chair here. We're looking at providing them with a seating system that will last them right through their whole life, to optimise their posture, to improve their functional outcomes, thereby improving their self-esteem, and most importantly of all, preventing spinal deformities from occurring, which, if they do occur, create pain and disability for the rest of a child's life. So yes, it is a very important investment, and one which should be taken seriously. Luke presented me with quite a different problem that I was asked to solve. He's a young man in high school with spastic quadriplegia, cerebral palsy, with quite a moderate disability. His favourite subjects at school are science and home economics, and to date he had not been able to partake in the group activities because the lab height desks were inaccessible for his wheelchair, so he was being isolated into a different area, which really wasn't very appropriate. We decided to trial him in the Bambach saddle seat because we were able to do a standing transfer from his wheelchair to the saddle seat. The design of the saddle seat controlled his muscle tone and was quite appropriate for a child with cerebral palsy. We were then able to use the gas lift in the chair to increase the height of the chair up to the appropriate height of the science lab and the home ec workstations. So he was a very happy little boy. The children that I have tried it with certainly don't want to give it back, and they feel more independent, they feel more comfortable, they're able to achieve what they want to achieve for the very first time.